welcome back. This is still the POLITY reaching live from Abuja. I've been joined now by Dr. Mefor. He is a social scientist and a policy analyst to do some justice to issues bordering the polity at the moment. Good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting me.
All right. So let's quickly start with previous President Muhammadu Buhari. He had his first interview, I believe, since leaving office, and he said a number of things. He said Nigerians are difficult to rule, or they are difficult to govern, and he also said that that some persons want themselves to be in his position at the time. And then he made another revelation which sort of concerned some persons, where he said that there might have been a cabal during his period in office. What do you make of what the president is saying, the ex-president?
So, up till now, President Muhammadu Buhari, as he used to be, is not aware whether there was a cabal or not. It shows how far removed he was from his own administration. It was obvious that he was not on top of his presidency. It's a very clear fact. Initially, many of us sympathized with him, even made excuses for him because of his failing health. But when he became healthy enough, we expected him to assert himself and take charge. He failed. And the only thing that bothered Buhari during his time, two things. Where headsmen interests was threatened, you see him, come to the party, roaring like a lion. And when that is seat, the seat of the president, beyond these two issues, every other thing was wrong, was outsourced. That is why we said that Buhari's presidency is a clear example of an outsourced presidency. He outsourced. And of course, I really don't quite blame him, because if you check, when he came to power in 1983 and stayed there till about 1985, he left following the IBB coup and all that. Between that time and his return to power in 2015, Buhari never really showed any evidence of self-improvement. I can't remember reading any paper anywhere where this paper presented by Buhari, anywhere. I've never seen any. Whoever has seen one should point to me. I mean, within that time, he left office, and the time he came back to office, there was a space of about 30 years. What did he do with that moment? Other past presidents, Obasanjo, for example, you see them trying to improve themselves. So Obasanjo even went back to school to acquire a PhD in National Open University. So, Buhari is now saying that Nigerians are difficult to govern. Did he govern Nigeria? He never did. I said this with every sense of responsibility. You didn't run your presidency. So how would you know how difficult it was to run Nigeria? You never really did. And of course, even if you go back to his coming as military head of state, the alter ego of that regime was actually Tunde Idiabo. So himself carves an image of one who is totally satisfied with the office as an end in itself. He never saw that seat as a means to an end. So when he was elected by Nigerians in 2015, three things we believed he was going to bring to the table. He failed it all. One was to deal with corruption. Did he fight corruption? How? What did he do about corruption? Corruption became worse, more endemic, more institutionalized under his watch. So how did Nigerians stop him from fighting corruption? If the terrorists want to blame Nigerians, he was supposed to deal with insecurity. Insecurity became more endemic, worsened under his watch. The ungoverned space, became escalated. You know, it was under Buhari that banditry blossomed into full-blown terrorism. Under his watch. How did Nigerians stop him from fighting insecurity? We did it, to the best of my understanding. Contrary to his claim, Nigerians are the easiest people to rule. In fact, what happened under the Buhari presidency, 1/10 of it will cause revolution in many African countries. Let us not even talk about Asia. And yet, he turns around to say that Nigerians are difficult to manage. How? I want to see him tell us things he did, things he wanted to do, and Nigerians stood in his way, or on his way, saying you can't, don't do this. What really made Nigerians difficult under Buhari? I want to be educated on that. Because he never, Buhari's presidency was phantom. It never existed, as far as I am concerned. People ran the show. You know, from behind the scene. His own was just to take care of his Fulani stock. That was what happened. Well, that was why over 80% of all the key appointments he made under his watch was Fulani Muslims. Take all from across board. And yet, Nigerians didn't do anything. Nigerians didn't protest it.
Well, maybe that is something that requires...
it requires investigation. So, I want to understand him. I don't get him at all.
Well, that's fair enough. But your statement probably also requires some level of fact-checking. That aside, I'd like to get your thoughts as to, very quickly, the juxtaposition. That's the former president talking. We have a new president. Yeah. Would you say some of these you've highlighted here, are they no longer evident in this administration? They are even more evident now, right? Corruption is more evident now. Okay. Even though it is rather too early in the day to really holistically and realistically and factually put the Tinubu presidency on the scale, right? It's just about 5 to 6 months down the line. It's too early, I must say. But I don't think I can't really see what Tinubu is doing differently from what Buhari did. The nepotic appointments is ongoing. That's it. Even his own people are complaining. It's becoming embarrassing. That nepotistic appointments of taking over the entire security architecture of Nigeria, the economic architecture of Nigeria, and dumping over 80 to 90% of the key positions in these two key areas. On even Lagos, not even Yoruba. Do you understand that? You don't run a federal system like that. Let me tell you something. A federalism is a system that brings ethnic nationalities together for what we call political economies of scale. In other words, rather than exist as many independent nations, you come together and pool your resources, your strengths together. Manpower, natural endowments, all these things are pulled together for political economies of scale. So when you hijack the presidency for the enjoyment of your section of the country and your cronies, you are actually defeating the essence of federalism. Federalism is trying to prove that there is strength in number and size. But when you keep away those who will really make a difference in your administration and pander to ethnic, nepotistic considerations, in the further analysis, you will not be able to really get much out of the whole thing, because if you really look at the ministers. Well, just so that we can cover enough today, yes. Let's quickly move over to another matter. We've spoken before on the issue of government expenditure, yes, particularly in this era. Over the last couple of days, there have been different unveiling, or will I say, exposure of the budgetary allocations for different states, and when I say exposure, it is not like as though it was a secret. It was just brought up to the conversation. Take for instance the Lagos, quarterly spend, I believe, recently was reviewed with different lines, and one of the opposition candidates in the 2023 elections, decided to write an open letter and suggest with each line that things were not properly correct. Let me just read out a couple of them. We have one in particular here, a very interesting one. For the procurement of a brand new Lexus LX 600 bulletproof sport utility vehicle for use in the pool of office of the Chief of Staff in Lagos, the amount is 440,750 naira. That is one car.
Yes.
And it was awarded to Lakeside Investment Limited. And let me read the comments of the candidate on this. He said, "This appears excessive and is out of tune with both the prevailing economic circumstances and mood of the people. It should be scrutinized as to the need and justification for such a vehicle purchase and also value for money." That was his concern. And interestingly, the Lagos State Government Procurement Office has replied. So we'll just take this one due to time. This is their reply. "This is in tandem with current economic realities." That is what the Lagos government is saying about the need for a bulletproof SUV worth 440 million naira. What's your take on all of this?
The value or cost for a bulletproof of that make may not be too far from the figure quoted. My concern is the need.
They say it's in tandem with economic realities.
That's what I'm saying. Yes, it could be. They are talking in terms of
the price.
The price.
Okay. I'm
not interested in the price. I'm talking about the need.
Yeah, but it's an open statement. Could it also mean that in this time we need this car? I'm
talking about the need. I'm talking about the need. The Chief of Staff has to ride in a bulletproof car. For what reason? It's a bloody civil servant. Do you understand that? There is no need for it. Certainly not by the Chief of Staff. So what I see is so much money, and you don't have leadership depth to even know how to apply such money to give the people the value. For example, Lagos State remains the most congested place, very unlivable. Why? Because of the transportation. The kind of transportation system that you would need in a place like Lagos, nobody is addressing it. You will need multi-layer flyovers. Do you understand that? You will need multi-layer flyovers, right? That will crisscross across Lagos, connecting it to Ogun, and even one or two other Ibadan, Ogun. Multi-layer. That's what you need in Lagos. It's not BRT track. That's primitive. If they really understand what urban transportation would mean for a place like Lagos that is collapsing under its own weight, they need to visit a place like China and see how to design multi-layer flyovers so that you take away the nightmare people go through waking up in the morning and returning late in the night because you just can't get to your destination. That's the kind of need we expect that an informed Lagos State governor should focus on. It's something that can be done. They have the basis to get that done, and the reason is the people to do this, they are there. I mentioned China now. Even Ghana is already proceeding in this direction. Ghana here is already moving in this direction. Multi-layer, flyovers that will overlay one after the other, crisscrossing Lagos from island to mainland and so on and so forth, connecting Ogun and things. So people can set out within whenever you are in the next point of call. And they don't need to actually bring the money by themselves. There are investors in the world that can do this turnkey. What you call build, operate, and transfer. But are they thinking in that direction? You know, you hardly can give what you don't have. The depth of leadership, the quality of leadership that we experience in Nigeria begs so much. Because if you look around, you will see that the people, the contemporary political leaders in Nigeria are simply not cut out for this level of leadership. They are not. So for them, leadership is an end in itself. They have captured the state power and they pander to what you call prebendalism. Prebendalism is a form of government where government officials believe that government resources are theirs and they treat them as such. Government resources, the money of government, property, everything belongs to them in power. That's what's going on in Lagos. That's what's going on in Nigeria. It's not a Lagos thing, it's all over the place. Now, you see, there is a sense of entitlement that our political leaders have. It's deriving from the fact that if you go to a place like, I was watching a video clip, last night, where Michelle Obama was recounting her experience in the White House and how they cut down costs. That she would always tell a barrack, say, look, don't order this or don't, because the bill will come to us. What does that tell you? Apart from that house in which you live, maybe the cars and stuff, right? That is where government expenditure stops. Anything beyond that, you pay for it. But in Nigeria, we are the ones feeding our leaders. Do you know how much Lagos state government has budgeted for feeding?
Oh, interesting. You said something about it's happening across. It's
everywhere. It's everywhere. That's the system. That's the system
across party lines.
Yes. It's not about parties. Yes. I'm not talking about party. The Nigerian leadership system is based on prebendalism. So what
do you think? At the very least, people who are seeking to come into government are not trying to, toe a different line. As opposition, you say this is what the ruling party is doing that is wrong, so on. So the other day I was speaking with someone from the SDP, and I asked, why aren't members of the SDP in the National Assembly staging a walkout, saying they don't want SUVs, same for Labour, same for all of them. So the question is, how is it that once there's assumption of office, it's as though these politicians become one and they continue their this system, as you call it?
Unfortunately, a chain is as strong as its weakest link, right? In a democracy, in fact, democracy is erected or determined by the quality of opposition. In Nigeria, you don't have opposition. There is no opposition political party. As we speak now, there is no opposition political party.
Why do you say that?
Yeah, for what you have just said, opposition means the body that serves as an alternative to the ruling government, right? You don't have it in Nigeria. PDP, Labour, NNPP, all of them don't qualify as opposition political parties. They don't. An opposition party should be able to give clear policy alternatives, so the Nigerian masses can see that this that has been done in this manner could have been done in this manner. That way, they are watching you, waiting for you in the wing, and hoping to bring the opposition party to power to be able to do things differently. So what is the alternative political policy guidelines and postulations that you can say PDP or Labour has brought? Nothing. It's still the same old story. That is why, in fact, all they are saying is our turn. It's our turn to rule. Nobody is telling you why it is even their turn. Nobody's telling you what they are bringing to the table. Yes, Obi was talking about moving Nigeria from consumption to production. Okay, that's something, but I can't see the pathway. If you're moving Nigeria from consumption to production, the people that were elected into the House of Reps and the Senate on the platform of labor and in fact riding on Obi's popularity collected SUV worth 160 million. And even they Obi try to justify it. You know, so you can see that we are simply confused. You don't have opposition. If I had the His Excellency Atiku Abubakar calling for merger, will Atiku be prepared to sacrifice his presidential ambition come 2027? Because that is where he has to start. Sacrifice. But the merger will ultimately benefit him. He is looking for a broader platform to relaunch his campaign in 2027. You tell him you are now in your 70s, you tell him that Bracken, just got elected as the president of Liberia. So there is even a precedence for him to justify having to run again in 2027. All right, so there is no opposition. That's just all I want you to know. There's no opposition, and until you have a position in place, there will be no democracy in Nigeria. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Law. Since we've run out of time, it's been great hearing your thoughts on this matter. Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine. All right, that's all we'll take on the program for today. Don't forget, the POLITY reaches you live from Abuja every weekday, 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Do join us tomorrow once again for another edition where we speak on the state of the nation at the intersection with politics and governance. Have a nice day. See you tomorrow.